Hello and welcome to a very special Source Gaming video. Yes, it is with our faces this time. My name is NantenJex and joining me today is my lovely partner,
Traveling Petit Pain!
There we go. So the reason that we're doing this is because we have quite a different review today. It's not one of our normal game reviews, but it is a game, and that is Nintendo Labo. So, I want to thank Nintendo UK for sending us a copy of this to allow us to review it. The thing with Nintendo Labo is that it's not just a game. That's part of the experience, obviously. That's the bit of the fun, but a lot more of the fun comes from actually making the various things. So, we've got 5 products here, 5 different cardboard creations that we're going to be making. There is the RC car, the piano, the fishing rod, the house, and the motorbike. And there are also a few other little ones like Toy-Cons, like the Toy-Con man, and there's also the JoyCon holders. So, we haven't opened this. All I've done is put the cartridge in the Switch itself, because on the Switch it shows you how to make the products that you're doing. So we got that up so that we know what we're doing, because otherwise we're going to be a bit lost, because if you actually look in here, and it's quite hefty.
Do you think we would have the time to do all of them tonight?
No, we will not. So you're going to watch us change clothes and throughout
Not in front of the camera.
I don't think we're going to do the whole process, because this may be a 7-hour, 8-hour process.
Already?
Yes.
Okay, so you got different cardboard boxes.
Right, you got the box here, and it's lovely black outline instead of the red one to show you that it's different. And then we've got all of the strings. Oops. Don't want to break my Switch. And look at it, all this cardboard.
There is a lot.
There is a lot, yeah.
Like, look at that.
We're gonna have
God.
That's why they say it takes a while.
Look at that's. And that's not all of it. Wow.
Nope. So give me these ones. We don't need these ones right now, because we're going to start.
At least they are pre-cut. Because I was afraid that you have to cut
it with the scissors yourself. No.
That would be like a pain in the bum.
Yeah, that would be a little more difficult than normal.
We got cardboard box. Inside a card box.
Yes.
That's cardboard box inception.
What can I do with this though? We've got all the junk hats. How do I play with this? I don't see the instructions on this.
You see, you know what you're making and what it belongs to, because on the top it shows you what it's for. So this one, for example, is the piano.
Yes.
Do we want to start with the piano?
No, because they're all alphabetical order to show you which one to start with.
Oh, okay.
So we have A here, and we're already missing a thing, which isn't a good sign.
Great.
Right. Anyway, anywho, let's get this out of the way. Let's start with the first one, the simple JoyCon holder. So,
do you need glue and stuff? Or?
Nope, you don't need any glue or any sellotape. Just watch the screen and figure out how to play. So the first thing you make with Nintendo Labo is the JoyCon holder. Neat, I guess. This is pretty much a tutorial because this thing does nothing and takes 5 seconds to put together. Feels pretty unnecessary though, as the Labo RC car is really simple to make. In fact, it only takes around 10 minutes, if not less, as it is only really one object with a cute but pointless accessory for the screen. It is simple to put together, and the Joy-Cons do slot in nicely, which is great. However, in terms of what you can do with the RC car, it is very limited. Using the HD rumble to move around is really impressive, and so is using the IR camera as an actual camera to see in the dark and spy on your friends and loved ones. However, a big appeal of the RC car is racing them or battling them, as Nintendo showed off, and you can't really do that with the base package. You only get one RC car to use, and this is a Toy-Con that really requires a rival to get the most out of. I also had some calibration issues. It might be my Joy-Con, but it always just leant slightly to the left, which made it hard to drive straight. You can change the calibration and intensity of each individual Joy-Con, which is great, but it didn't really solve my issue. This one is neat, but with only one car, it really feels like you're missing half the experience. I did try battling my hamster instead, but it wasn't quite the same. At least the car is very quick to make, and it's small, making it easier to store. Unlike, well, everything else. So next is the Labo fishing rod, a multi-piece Labo with two main components and parts that are not even made of cardboard. The instructions for this one were really nice and showed off some of the humour and lightheartedness that Labo has to make in order for the instructions to be fun. And the Labo fishing rod is also the first example of each of the pieces fitting so well together with very little struggle. It is far more intricate than the RC car, of course, and I only really had problems pushing the string into the pieces to connect them, as I didn't want to put a hole through the system. Onto the game itself though. Labo fishing is okay. I think the actual controls are fantastic. Standing there with the fishing rod and doing all the correct fishing motions really adds to the immersion in such a unique way. I really enjoyed it. However, I suck at fishing, and I don't quite understand how to get anything but the simplest and smallest of fish. I tried multiple times, and maybe I'm just missing something, but I couldn't get into this game. Although, it could just be because I suck at fishing. There is an aquarium, so you can view your catches and plenty of fish to collect, so if you're into fishing video games, this one will likely be very fun. It certainly is a game, unlike the next one, just not one for me personally. Labo House is next on the list, and is deceptive in its creation. It takes a while to create this, but when you first start, you actually set up the house itself relatively quickly. The length of time comes from all the fiddly bits and the reflective stickers. Stickers are used for the JoyCon IR camera to pick up and figure out which inputs you are placing into the house, and it is cool when in action, but I found it really hard to be precise with my big sausage fingers. I see why Labo was targeted more at kids with this, and while Nintendo tried its best to make it obvious what to do, there was one instance in the instructions where I wasn't given all the information at first when applying a sticker, and had to carefully remove it, fearing the whole time that I would rip the Labo and make it unusable. Thankfully, that didn't happen, and I can praise the stickers for that. The Labo House game, though, The game is like a Tamagotchi or Digivice, but in HD with a little fur ball. The various inputs to the side of the house can cause different effects, like flooding it, and if you have two houses they can be connected, so your little monster can visit a friend's. However, it is really hard to call this one a game. It lacks a lot of depth to the point that even those old Tamagotchi devices feel like more of an experience than this. The house is definitely the low point of this set, and after playing it once I have no drive to revisit. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have the RC Bike. This Labo isn't nearly as fiddly as the house, but it is a lot bigger, and some elastic bands can be a little hard to attach. This was also the first time I had some issues slotting the pieces together, but it was only a few times, and with a bit of force, I got it in. Now, the game itself is probably the best one of the pack. Much like the equestrian riding in Mario Sports Superstar, now that is a throwback to an old review, this is the mode that I feel like could be expanded into its own standalone game. I know Mario Kart 8 Deluxe added an update that allowed you to use the RC bike in that game, but controlling here is different and feels like driving an actual bike. It was a lot of fun, and with multiple cups to race in, you can have quite a bit of enjoyment out of this. Unfortunately, the tracks themselves are very plain visually speaking, and some variety and locale would be nice. However, if you get bored of the track design itself, then the solution is simple. Make the track yourself. The RC Bike game has a very simple track designer, where you hold the Joy-Con like a paper aeroplane and use the motion to design the track, adjusting for height accordingly. This is fun, and having the ability to do this adds infinite replayability to this mode. While its gameplay is simple, this is where I got most of my enjoyment from Nintendo Labo, and I wouldn't mind seeing this expanded on down the line. Finally, the big one, and the most time consuming, clocking in at around 3.5 hours to make. The Labo Piano is the most fiddly one to create due to the amount of stickers required, but unlike the house, the results are far more enjoyable. You'd think for the big centerpiece of the first Labo kit, I would have more to say on the piano, but honestly I don't. It's a piano, and it functions just like one. There are auto-save songs, and you can make plugins to change the keys into cats or old men. It's really cool, and this can all be customized by putting holes into little pieces of paper. Now, I am musically illiterate, so I couldn't get the best value out of the piano other than trying to go back to the me from 10 years ago, when music was still a mandatory learning experience in school. But Travelling Petty Pan enjoyed playing on it. From what I have seen online, if you do understand music, you can definitely get the most out of the piano, but for those of us who just don't get music at all, it is a hard sell. It would be a good tool to teach kids piano though, so if you have a kid and you want to learn and you can't afford one of those big grand black ivory key pianos, this is a good alternative. Along with Make and Play, Labo also has a discovery section. Really, this is more like an advanced tip section, as it goes over everything you can do with the individual Labo. This goes from decorating them to more advanced options like making your own musical notes for Labo to play. It's there for those who want to get heavily invested in Labo. The culmination of all of this is the program which allows users to make their own Labo creations. It is rudimentary, and can only really be taken advantage of by the most creative of players, which isn't me, so I never figured out how to use it properly. I have seen some impressive stuff from it though, like the Labo battleships. I wanted to mention it here for completion's sake, but it is really for the most advanced Labo users, so I didn't try it a whole lot. But just because I'm not good enough, that's not really fair to judge it. So lastly, the presentation, a more familiar category for my reviews. The presentation of the Labo game is fine. It is fairly upbeat music that you listen to on loop for hours, and somehow just doesn't get annoying, so kudos for that. The menus are all colourful and trying to give off the impression of a toy box, and the dialogue is funny, and witty, in a childish way. It's clearly aimed at a young audience, and as that is Labo's primary demographic, I think it works well. Everything is really slick, and I appreciate how much freedom you had in the tutorials to look at all the angles of the Toy-Con. One criticism would be the order the games unlock. Now, there isn't anything wrong with the order itself, it's more that there even is one. If you're a musician who bought Labo just to play the piano, then you have to work your way through every other Labo just to get there. I suppose you could skip them by fast forwarding through all the tutorials, but that is still a time waste, and that could have been avoided. The same is in the discovery section. If you wanted to learn about one particular piece of your Labo kit, you have to go through all of the other preceding tutorials, even if it's stuff that's pretty self-explanatory. Overall, the presentation of the game itself is nice for Labo, and everything looks really clean. The music is up to par with a typical Nintendo title, and so are the aesthetics. Nothing really memorable, but nothing really bad either. Nintendo Labo is really cool, both as a concept and in action. There is something truly special about making a functioning piano or fishing rod out of cardboard, strings and stickers. It really isn't anything I've ever done before. As a game, however, it is really lacking. I spent significantly more of my time making the Labo components themselves than actually playing the games they were associated with. This is especially true with the house, and while some may get more fun out of the piano at least, you need to understand music to do so. Labo is also pulled back by its multiplayer options. They are there to play, but require another set of Labo to take advantage of, which is a big investment. This is a big issue for the RC car, which can only really be enjoyed in a 2-player setting, yet Nintendo thought only to provide one of them, probably because it would require another Switch and copy of the game just to control. Finally, on a very specific point, Labo is huge, and I just don't have room for it. I'm trying to find places for them in my flat, and it's getting difficult. I don't want to take them apart though because of how long it took me to make them in the first place. So if you live in a small accommodation, Labo becomes an even harder sell. Now Labo is a novel idea, but as a game, it lacks, and this Toy-Con kit comes with too many drawbacks to make it a must-have. If you had a child who would be into crafting the kits, then it'll be fun for them. But if you're an adult like me, then the Labo Variety Kit is way too much of a time sink for what you'll end up getting back. Before I go, I want to thank Nintendo for sending us this Labo kit to review. We did have fun making it, and we did have fun with some of the games, but I'm just being honest with my opinion here. But I'd like to hear all of your honest opinions as well. What do you like about Labo? Have you tried it? If you haven't, what has my review sort of pushed you in any particular direction? Is it something you're willing to try before you buy first? Let me know. And I want to give a special thanks to all of the Patreons that you are seeing on screen right now, in particular our super patron, the Duke of Dorks. With that, make sure you like and subscribe, and always remember to return to the source.